Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome another episode of Fallbrook Village Talk. I'm really excited today. I'm going to put this on here. Bam! The social flower is
Woo!
live today. I'm so excited about this. And here we go. I'm going to put that up there. Robyn's on with me. And it's funny because I saw the new wrap that you got on the social flower vehicle,
Yeah,
and that wrap is amazing.
it's
It is.
so
It's so
cool.
cool. And
It's
I saw
so
that and I'm
cool.
like, why have I not reached out to her yet? I need to get out.
Oh,
Yeah. And I love the rap. I love what you're doing. And we sort of talked a little bit before we jumped on just now. And and we're going to talk about it kind of like the Cinderella story of who you are, the challenges that you've had, the ups, the downs. And here it is. It's been about 4 years. I remember,
yeah,
when I first saw and you were talking about it, and then you started building the social flower, how it's taken off. And I think a lot of people think that Fallbrook business is just sort of like somebody just got this great idea and just made it happen.
yeah,
Even like our business, like, oh, they just showed up and just started doing great. No, it's like there's a story, there's a history behind it. And I think the other thing that I expressed to you is why we started Fallbrook Village Talk is so
mhm,
what makes Fallbrook is its people and the stories.
yeah.
So I just think like when I think of Fallbrook, I think of you. So
Thanks.
well, I do, and there's a few people in Fallbrook where I just think of them when I think of Fallbrook, and even like I have a client right now. She's been in Fallbrook for like 40 years. And listening to her stories of how the town has changed, so I'm planning on having her on, just because
Right.
it's just neat. It's just freaking neat.
Yeah, and
So,
a lot of insight too, I would imagine,
oh
after 40
yeah,
years. Yeah.
oh yeah, well, because it's always it's always kind of like, especially on like Friends of Fallbrook or Real Friends of Fallbrook, and because I'm on social media. I like social media, so you always hear kind of like these different things, like, oh, the town, this, either this is going down, or oh, well, this is stupid, they shouldn't do that. But then like when you hear somebody's like a perspective of somebody that's been in the town for 40 plus years, 50 years, it's kind of like it just changes. It's just that like
Sure.
it towns just change. Fallbrook is changing. It always will change. It always has changed. And it, as long as the community is still coming together and people are still communicating and talking and keeping it the friendly village, it will always be that. So I don't know. That was one of the
Totally.
big reasons why we started Fallbrook Village Talk. That was at
Awesome.
least the idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk about you. So for the people that don't know, because what's cool is like we have 6 viewers already and we just turned on, but we're going to have a whole bunch of people. I think every time we've done these, we've had like close to 2,000 plus viewers on every
No
every Fallbrook
pressure,
Village Talk.
right?
Yeah, I know, right? But other people are going to listen to us. So tell us who you are and like what brought you to Fallbrook.
Yeah, so my name is Robyn Dahlson. I'm the owner of the Social Flower. And I was born in LA County. And back in the 80s, my family owns a wholesale florist. And they acquired some land in Bonsall. It's really rural out here. There's a lot of agriculture. And so they bought this parcel of property. And my it was my dad's one of 8 brothers and sisters, and so I kind of joke that he drew the short stick to have to move from Los Angeles and come out here and become a flower farmer. And so that's what dad did. So that's how we ended up here. And I want to say that was like maybe 1988, 86 to 88, somewhere in between
Oh,
there.
cool. Yeah.
So yeah, so and not Fallbrook, but Bonsall. And back then, growing up in Bonsall and Bonsall Elementary School, like it was almost taboo. Like if I would try to explain to people where I was from, and you just couldn't say Fallbrook because we were Bonsall and that was Fallbrook. So you
It's
like
funny how that
needed to
is,
make
though.
sure that they understood, yeah,
Yeah. Because I
the
almost view it
different.
like when I think of Bonzo and Fallbrook, I mean, Bonzo is Bonzo and Fallbrook's Fallbrook, but to me, it's part of the friendly village.
For
Like that's
sure.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I
I,
think it's kind of become more that way. But growing up, like, I remember our school was like, oh, Potter Junior High. And, like we just couldn't be friends with them. That was Fallbrook. And so there's like this little small town rivalry, which is kind of cute. And I think it was always really wholesome. It wasn't anything ever like, malicious intent
right. You
or
weren't
really
stealing
like
their
meant to
mascots
harm.
and parading
Yeah,
them through
right.
town.
Totally. Right. Exactly.
So how
Um,
much growth, I mean, just out of curiosity, since you've been out here since the 80s, like how much growth have you seen between Bonzel and Fallbrook? Like what's changed?
Holy moly. I mean, a lot has changed and continues to change. I look at, and I think we kind of talking about the fires, but even if I just take it back a year ago, in when the fires happened, because I moved from Bonsall since then, and so but my shop's in Bonsall, so which is really rad. But just even the growth in like a single year, and like the homes that went up in like the San Luis Rey community, and so if you can like base it just that growth exponentially in just 1 year, and then we're going back to the 80s, it's massive. I mean, it's a massive amount of change, it's a massive amount of growth. But one thing I think is so cool is that like the hearts of the people in this small town, that's always been the same. And so like when I have friends move away, I kind of joke about like, because they'll say, oh well, who stayed in town, who's still there, who's gone. And it's kind of like it's a lot of the same type of people, but maybe not the people that we knew.
Right.
And so it's just, a small community with like a lot of people with big hearts.
Right. That's cool, man. And
Yeah.
I think that's what we really wanted to accomplish with Fallbrook Village Talk is just hearing kind of like these stories, people that have been in town. So I moved to Fallbrook. I started driving through Fallbrook in the mid 90s when I was in the Marine Corps to go to Pendleton. And
Oh,
then I was like,
uh-huh.
yeah. And I was like, one day when I can afford it, I'm moving there. And I
Right.
came back from Afghanistan. I was living in Menifee with a friend and his wife. So we were like living in
And
their
what
house
year
with their
was that?
kids. That was in what deployment was that? 2010. So it was
Mm-hmm.
2010. And then I couldn't live with them anymore. Like we were there for like, I think like 1 or 2 months. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm going to buy a house here anyways. Let's look at Fallbrook. And my first house I bought was off of Porter Way. So that's off of Ohio. So Mission, East Mission. And yeah, so
I'm
it's,
still getting acquainted with Fallbrook. I'm new to
yeah.
Fallbrook. So like I've lived here for a long time and I have a funny story about that, but so I'm still getting
Well, let's
acquainted
hear
with
it.
all the streets
Let's hear the
in
funny
Fallbrook.
story. I like funny stories.
So I lived in Bonsall, but growing up, like we didn't have GPS,
Right.
and so when I first moved back in 2014, because I was from here, I moved away and I moved back in 2014. So there's a lot of change there too. In that time,
Right.
I was gone about 10 years. Anyway, we were driving to go do karaoke at Red Eye, and which is so fun. And so he had taken me back. He said to go up Fallbrook Street and then go down Stagecoach. And so I said, Fallbrook Street. And he said, yeah, do you not know where Fallbrook Street is? And I said, no, I just didn't know that like Fallbrook had a street named after it. And he was like, it's like a main thoroughfare in Fallbrook. I said, no, this has got to be new since I moved back, right? Like, and he said, no, it's legitimately always been Fallbrook Street. And so it's just so funny because like being in Bonsall, I'm still kind of navigating like these, the back roads and like all the
Right. And
main
there's back
streets. But
roads to almost
I was so
everything.
incredulous that there was an actual Fallbrook Street, and I felt so dumb, like going through there because it really is like the main street. But I think because it looks so much like maybe Retchy Road, and
Right.
so and I know there's like controversy on how you say that, but
Yeah, and I was just about to
um,
say that. Like Fallbrook is so goofy sometimes because like people will
super,
argue over road names. So I say
yeah,
Ricci. I've been saying Ricci for years, but it's
Ricci.
not. It's
Mhm.
Retchy Road,
It's
and or
not. Well, that's how we say it, but I think it's actually Reesh. I think it's like REESH is how you would pronounce
I
it. Like
haven't heard
if
that
you
one.
want to get super technical, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that that's right, but I know that there are probably people that will argue or say that I've got that wrong. So
Oh, that's
we'll just
so
let that go
funny.
for now. Yeah,
And then, of course, the Red Eye. I have
the
spent
red
many a
eye.
fun nights at the Red Eye. I like to
Yeah.
go there to play pool, and I took my dad there once for karaoke. My dad has a fascination with singing like old Irish tunes. So yeah, so it's
Oh,
actually pretty cool. I remember once, so it's called Harry's now, but it was what was it back then? It was some other one. We went there for St. Patty's Day,
yeah.
and my dad literally just jumps on stage like as they're starting to go on a break, the band that was playing, and just starts singing some old original Irish tunes.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, so we would go over to the Red Eye, and of course, depending on how many beers I've had, I'll either start singing grunge type like Pearl Jam weird stuff,
Yeah.
or just fun songs, like fun
Yeah.
songs.
Right.
Yeah, so I always like doing that at the Red Eye because like nobody judges you there because nobody
Totally.
cares.
That is exactly it. That is exactly it. And I love it too around the holidays because like when and it was the same thing when I didn't live here, but that's like where everybody goes around the holidays. So it's like every time around Thanksgiving and Christmas, you go to the Red Eye like on the weekends surrounding the holidays. It's like mini high school reunions of just people coming back to visit their family, and so
Right.
it's always so much fun.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
it's
That's
so
pretty
fun.
cool. See, because I'm not originally from Fallbrook, but I know like Adam Nagara, he's on our team here, right?
Right, right,
And he is like born, raised Fallbrook. And he's mentioned some of this stuff. And I just think it's kind of cool because I'm not, you
right.
know, a forever Fallbrookian. I'm a transplant, as a lot of people are.
Sure.
But it's always kind of cool to hear people that like grew up around Fallbrook or Bonsall. And again, I kind of lump both of them together, and I probably shouldn't. I just do. But I just think that's actually kind of cool. So
Yeah.
let's I want to. There's a couple topics that I specifically want to talk about.
Okay.
One of them is going to be, of course, Social Flower. We'll probably hold off on that just because I love the story. You know what? No, I take it back. Let's do that first because the
Okay.
next one's a little sad. So let's start with the Social Flower. So to me, at least my experience is I remember seeing kind of like an upstart. And I think
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, I feel like a lot of people think if you show up and you just start doing well, you just showed up and got lucky, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
years that you've built in order to create what you've created. So
Completely.
you started in the floral industry with your family,
Sure.
flower farm, etc., and then you left Fallbrook. You came back to Fallbrook after 10 years. Like, what was it that switched in your head where you're like, you know what, I'm going to become a business owner, and I'm gonna build the Social Flower? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I come from such a technical background. Like even though my family had the florist, the wholesale florist, and growing up on a flower farm, but I came back. I came from the safety industry, so I worked a lot with like OSHA, Cal OSHA, a lot of state regulation, and American Society of Safety Engineers. So I came from something very technical, and when I first moved back to the area, I was traveling a lot and I'd be gone anywhere from like, 13 to 17 days out of the month. And I think that industry was really area specific.
Right.
So I don't know if you know, but my dad has multiple sclerosis, and I moved back to specifically be a caregiver for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, so cool, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's fantastic. But what I found is my trade, there wasn't a lot of opportunities. So I worked out of my home when I wasn't traveling, but my office was in Santa Ana, and it just was. I was on the road just way too much, and if I wanted to stay local, there wasn't a lot of industry that kind of fit where I came from,
Right.
and I just felt like I had been, when you travel that much for work, there's an entrepreneurial sense already. Like I'm not punching a time clock, or
Right.
I'm responsible for my own schedule. And I thought, oh God, I don't know if I could ever go work for somebody again.
Right.
And I just feel like I would, be in such discord with an employer. So I just thought this is not a good idea. So I thought, well, what the heck do I know how to do if I do open a business? So I spent some time really kind of wondering, and then I had a beautiful couple, military couple, before I opened the shop. And I loved them so much. They just were on the Ellen show, really special people. And they'd asked me to do their wedding
Right.
before owning the business. And I just thought, like, I remember sitting with them. We went to Union Kitchen and Tap in Encinitas, and listening to and seeing how much they just genuinely loved each other
Right.
and how awesome they were. And knowing that, like, that day I got to play a really small part of, their new lives together. And so it was really humbling to do that. And I thought, I want to chase what that felt like and what that experience was, and to, yes, like what I do as a business, that's very true. But I feel like that kind of came secondary of participating in like these really special and big moments of people's
Right.
lives. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then after, I think maybe like 6 months after that wedding, I kind of just went for it, and I opened we opened the doors almost 6 months after. And so it's just been a heck of a roller coaster since then. But it was really cool, to kind of realize that it was something I loved so much, and then just wanting to have that be the driving factor of what the mission of the business is.
Right. And the town's really supported you,
Yeah,
and
for
you're
sure.
huge, at least on social media, which is where a lot of people are going to see this. And like I told you, when I think Fallbrook, I think of you. You're one of the people that pops into my mind. So I just think that's
That's so
really
cool.
cool, and it's a really cool story that you have.
Yeah.
And so I think the other one is like, so I don't know if everybody knows exactly what the social flower does. Granted, it's floral, but
Mm-hmm.
like when we've talked, I've seen some of your designs that you do, and I think it's is it your Instagram page? I think it's your
Yeah.
Instagram page that's just like, wow, that's cool. But some of the designs that you put together, especially for like weddings and wedding parties and all, it's just
Mm-hmm.
over the top. I've never seen anything like it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so creative. And I I'm creative, but like in my own way, I guess.
Right.
But when I look at design type stuff, like I couldn't look at a flower and say, if I put it this way, like your designs, they create emotion. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, so to me,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not like it is. It's art. It's an art form to be able to create something like that generates a genuine emotion in somebody. And I just think it's
That's
so
like the
freaking
nicest
cool.
compliment I've ever been given, by the way.
Well,
That's
it's
like really
true.
nice. No, but I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only tell you what how I feel and what I know. I mean, when I look at it,
Sure.
it generates a genuine emotion. It's no different. So I want to get him on too. There's this artist, and he's actually a photographer, and we're getting ready to list his house. But he takes these photos of these basically a floral. They're floral photos as well, and
Oh,
it's so amazing what he does. And I've been to his studio and I watch how he works. And to me, it's art.
are you
In
talking
order
about
to create,
Bill?
yeah, he's
Yeah, I
amazing. I
love
love his
Bill. Yeah.
stuff, man. Yeah, so his artwork is so over the top. And
Mm.
have you had a chance to go to his studio and see how he
I
works?
haven't, but
Oh man.
he comes in here pretty regularly. He lives close to where the shop is,
Yeah.
and so, which I'm sure you know. And he, like, if we have just kind of odds and ends pieces, we always like just kind of give him things to go photograph, because I think like the science behind and the biology in flowers is so freaking cool.
Right.
And he captures this structure that I think that like I don't know, it's just really different what he does with it. And it's because I feel the same way about how you described it, like what we do. That's kind of how I feel about what he does. Like, it invokes this really big emotional response to something that is just so natural and beautiful,
Right.
on
Right.
its own.
And instead of, I think what most people do. So, example, if I go to Albertsons and I see flowers and I pick them up because I want to, either I'm in trouble or I'm trying to, like for my mother-in-law, I buy her flowers because I know,
Oh,
yeah, it brings her joy.
lovely.
But I do stuff if it's there and I feel that I want to do something special. I do. I don't
Sure.
like waiting for holidays personally, but
Right.
it doesn't. If anything, I criticize or I'm looking at it and it's an action that I do because it's an action to do, as opposed to when I see what you do and the designs that are there, it is an emotional reaction. And that's how I feel about his art too. That's how I feel about
Sure.
for and so I would equate it to really high end photography or even oils and watercolors. So I love your designs. I love your
Thank you.
Instagram page.
Thanks.
I've been following it for years now, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan.
Something kind of cool though that we do a little bit different. So we're we've I've never had the business like you mentioned Albertsons, and I just like I feel like there's this stigma of like us, the florist versus like the grocery store. And I am like as victim as anybody else. Like, I walked into Albertsons not that long ago, and they had like the most beautiful purple gladiolas. So it was like this lavender color, and it's like, oh man, I really want those in my home. So I bought them. Like and so I do this. I do the same thing. I just love flowers.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like I don't want to discriminate like where they come from because they're just so beautiful. So, but anyway, one thing that I feel like we do that's really different is that a lot of what we do is custom. When like we just did a wedding for like a local couple, and it was so cool because like I ask their stories, I ask how they got engaged, I want to know what their journey was because like floral inspiration hits in different ways, just as I think
See,
any
again, you're
sort of
talking,
artist
you're an
does.
artist. So I'm listening to you and I
Yeah,
hear an artist. You're an artist.
and I believe that, and I feel like, but I feel like a lot of that comes from like being able to just be still and be quiet, and the oh shoot, my battery just went low. Sorry.
We'll have to button it up
um
quick.
I know, get off there. 20%. And so, but it was really cool because listening to their proposal, I got to think of like, having this coming from the wholesale side, I feel like a walking encyclopedia of floral knowledge,
Right.
and so, but how that translates into somebody's individual story, and so I feel like we don't really carry grab and goes because I'm always designing for somebody. And sure, like we have a website and you can buy online, but I really encourage people to call in and let us ask a couple questions. What is the occasion? And what I love, and I don't know if this is the same because I've only ever had a shop here, but what I think is so cool is that like a lot of what we do for our day-to-day orders, it's not just anniversaries, birthdays, I'm in trouble,
Right.
although we do see those. It really is people thinking about somebody else and wanting to brighten someone else's day. And
Right.
I feel like that is the most special, and what an honor to be a mechanism to be able to help like do that. You know what I mean? To be the vehicle that we get to help like take somebody that cares enough about another human being to want to make their day,
Right.
enough thought, and we get to take just a small part in that. And so when I talk about like what we do, it's custom because I take that very seriously. I think that's really special that people care enough about other people to send them something that Mother Nature created. Like, what a cool
Yeah.
job is that? You know what I
That is
mean?
pretty cool.
It's
Yeah,
so rad.
absolutely. That
Yeah.
is. And I don't know if you saw this. Here, let me pull this up. So, Susan, thanks, Susan, for putting in a comment. Says, Robin and her
Hi,
team are so
Susan.
creative and fabulous. The designs are off the hook. So, thank you so much for commenting. I always like to put up comments whenever they pop up.
That was
But
so cute.
yeah, that is cool. So now, because your battery's getting low, so I'm going to try to speed up
Okay.
a little bit. It's funny
Yeah.
because typically I'll do like 10, 15 minutes. It's kind of in and out, but I never push. It's always one of those things where if it's I just want to have a good conversation.
Yeah,
And I
for
think,
sure.
with Fallbrook Village Talk, the whole goal was it's just conversations and people telling stories. That's it. So,
Right.
but one of the biggest ones that I saw, was about the fires. And I'd like
Sure.
to talk about that because when the fires were going on, and we've had fires for years. I told you off before we started, I almost thought we were going to lose our house. I think we had just moved there and the fires come through and I started lining up all my horses. I was riding them out. Kim, I already packed her
Yeah.
up with the kid. And, you never, I didn't think, I thought it could happen and I was preparing for it, but I was like, oh, it won't happen to me, as I think a lot of people do. But the reality is Fallbrook and Bonsall, it's a fire prone area. So,
Yes.
you lost your house. So
Yeah.
for those of you that are watching, if you didn't know, Robyn lost her house. So I'd like to just sort of talk about that and like that experience briefly. And then kind of like if you could give tips or insight to those that, in the future, it's going to happen again. There's going to be more fires.
Sure.
What did you learn from that experience that maybe could help somebody else?
Yeah. So, one, preparedness, because we do live in a fire prone area. I was really complacent. I think I told you that exact word the day of the fires because we had evacuated in the 2014 fire. and nothing happened. And so like when this one happened, I just felt really inconvenienced. And so I had like I think I grabbed 3 dresses. I was
Mm,
wearing flip-flops, and I just thought, okay, like tomorrow, the next day, we'll get to go back and it'll be no big deal.
right.
And there's zero part of me that felt like that was a thing that I was going to have to, that later that day I'd turn on the news and CBS would be broadcasting from what was my home, right? There's just
Wow.
no part of me that thought that was a reality or it could be. So I think that if people that live in a fire prone area could just make sure that they have copies of driver's license, passports, birth certificates, all of those things. Like I just afterwards it was so surreal because like the recovery center was at the Fallbrook, or not the Fallbrook, but the Vista County Library. And it was really surreal because it was just filled with people grieving,
Right.
that were shocked. And it was a week after, and maybe not even a full week. It was really close to after. And I just remember being asked so many questions about, like what we had, what we didn't have, what we needed, and just feeling really numb, like overwhelmed and really numb. Again, being a caregiver for my dad, that was something I felt. It was just really difficult to, it's you're processing so much information. And if I would have just had those things going into that day, I feel like it would have made my day so much easier. And then getting documents afterwards has been, it's been great that the fees for replacement things were waived, but it's still time consuming. It's still things that you have to take the time to do.
Right.
um, so that part of it, I feel like, yeah, I feel like just preparedness in having that stuff is a good thing, and having a to-go bag when those start. And then, keeping up on, I'm sure you see this as a realtor, but yard maintenance and landscaping, and
Hmm.
keeping up on those kind of things. And because that's not just helping like your own property, that's helping your neighbors
Right.
and your whole neighborhood essentially as well. So
Right.
I think that that's especially like if you're dealing with areas that have large pieces of property, large parcels, a lot of acreage. So yeah, so that's kind of like the first thing I would say is just being prepared,
So I like that.
and
So
taking it
basically, what you
seriously.
said was, anything could happen, and whether it's flooding, whether who knows what it could be, but
Right.
having copies of essential paperwork, having
Absolutely.
having a bug out bag, which is what I have. I remember when I first started having them in my house, my friends thought I was crazy, and I'm like,
Mhm.
and that's when they had all those prepper shows on, and I'm not a prepper by any
Yeah.
stretch of the
Right.
mind.
Like
I'm
the
not.
doomsday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a doomsday guy, but at the same time, a lot of it came from, in the Marine Corps during, I did Iraq, Afghanistan, stuff like that. I would get a phone call. My last deployment, I had 2 weeks. They're like, "Hey, we need you. You're deploying in 2 weeks with a unit that doesn't even live." Like it was a unit that was a completely different base from a different place. You're leaving in 2 weeks for Afghanistan. By the way, I need you to be out tomorrow. So I just would be
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah.
I just got used to that. Like that was my lifestyle. So I always keep a bug out bag, and I keep my essentials. I keep, as far as paperwork, who I am, identification. I keep enough, like a little bit of food for a day or two. I keep essential clothing. Because usually it can come up on other stuff, but stuff that I'm going to need in my family.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And then I think the other one that you had mentioned, Fallbrook Bonsall, there's a lot of large land parcels. So actually, instead of saying, I'll hold off another month or two, actually maintaining the property so
Yeah.
you aren't fueling something that you know is going to happen.
Totally.
Fires are going to happen in
They
Bonsall.
are.
Fires are going to happen in
Yeah.
Fallbrook. It's going to happen. So why feed it more than it's already going to be fed?
Absolutely.
And it's not just about you, it's about your neighbors as well. So your neighbors should be doing the same thing. It's so you can protect each other. I love that. That's great input, and I'm really sorry you went through that. And I know, I followed closely with that, and not just you, but a lot of other people that suffered.
I like this is so random, but I don't know if you're familiar. Like it's a new Netflix show that just started up, and it's like it's getting a lot of popularity, and it's called Tidying Up with Marie. Hold on, Give me 2 seconds. I'll tell you what it's called. Marie Kondo,
Hmm.
and it's really interesting because she goes, into people's homes, and um, the emotional attachment we have to things is pretty incredible. And any woman that's ever tried to binge her closet can tell you how difficult that is,
Right.
because maybe it's something she, an article of clothing she had before she had children, or there's, she wore something on a date or whatever it is. We just have this really emotional attachment to things.
Right.
And because we were so, underprepared, and when we did lose everything, that was kind of one of the things that I never had to go through. I felt, at first I felt really victimized. Like if somebody comes in and robs your house and takes
Right.
everything, and it's just like, I never got a say in what I wanted to keep and what I didn't want to keep. And it was kind of like that decision was made for me, and that was really hard. But what I love about this show, and this kind of, like, and it's not necessarily about being a minimalist or living minimally, but really just being conscious and present enough to know the kind of excess that we kind of live in.
I was actually going to ask you about that as far as minimalistic lifestyles or being a minimalist,
Yeah,
because I just had a buddy of mine. He came out and stayed with us for about 3 weeks. He lives in Japan, and he came and visited us for 3 weeks for the holidays. And he is like a hardcore minimalist, but
yeah.
he's so engaged in life, and he's so
Mm,
happy, and he's just got massive peace of mind. And it's just wild to me. Like, I've been exploring a lot of this because I feel like we have so much stuff,
stuff.
and
Yeah,
it's
just
just
stuff.
stuff.
Yes.
And
We
and
have
then just
a
to maintain the
fascination with
stuff, it's
stuff.
overwhelming. It's overwhelming just to maintain the stuff we have,
It
you
is,
know?
and not only that, but if you take that a step further, it's not only just maintaining the stuff that we have, it's defining ourselves by that same stuff. It's looking at another human being, looking at the stuff that we have, looking at the stuff that they have, and making comparisons,
Right.
and saying that they're somehow better or we're somehow better because we have more things. And this fascination with stuff, it's been really humbling to kind of, really go without, because the reality is those first maybe 2-3 months when I did lose everything, like, I was interviewed by, I think it was ABC, and it was like just days after, and I'm living in a hotel. I have 3 dresses, I have nothing. So
Right.
I was wearing somebody else's clothes, I used somebody else's hair product, and everything I have that day was by the graciousness of somebody else. And somebody else, like, and lots of somebody else's, not just a
Right.
singular someone, but lots of somebody's that cared enough about somebody else, and what they were going through to help.
Wow.
And so it's really humbling, because, like, my journey with the rebuild, a year later, kind of started with really looking at what other people were able to part with. Like, I just lost everything, and that was taken from me, and I was really, there were parts of me, I think it's like, we never want to be identified as angry, but I was really angry about it.
Right.
I felt like the world was being really somehow unfair. And it was hard. It was really humbling. But then to kind of look at what the generosity that came from other people that now made a choice, a conscious choice, to let go of something, to have that thing bring joy to somebody else. So
Right.
on the rebuild, I've been really conscious about this stuff, about the importance of things. And you want a nice home, and like, but just, I think of knickknacks, and like all the knickknacks that we lost. In fact, can I like just freeze right here?
Yeah,
Can I
this
show
is
you
all you.
something? I
Yeah.
have to show you because this is so funny. Hold on. It's so funny though.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this is your show.
So my home was full of knickknacks, right? Oh, what a good spot though, right?
Yeah, I know. I was just looking at
Perfect.
that. That's so cool.
I
In
know,
a
it's so
design
fun.
studio. I love that.
Can you see this?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
can
see
see
what
it.
that is? So
Here, let me
it's
let me hide your name on here. Okay, do it again. Yeah, okay, everybody can see that. Cool. What is that, a
So
skunk?
it's Thumper
Oh,
from
it's,
Bambi.
yeah,
And so we lose just about everything. I'm talking about like all the stuff, all the excess. And this is like my prized possession because it's like the thing that we got that we kept from the fire. And it has to be like this knickknack, this Bambi knickknack
yeah,
that I still have. So anyway, so I guess in that regard I'm kind of grateful for some sort of knickknack because now I have just like a small relic, but the knickknacks I'm trying to keep down to a pretty severe minimum,
right.
in that rebuild, and so that's been really cool, and
I
I
just think
I
it's interesting
encourage.
that through tragedy, like you're finding growth and
Oh my God,
change,
Kris,
and
so much.
you're just moving. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
just think that's so cool. Oh, hold on one second. Okay, Stephanie is correcting you. It's Flower, not Thumper.
Oh
Yeah, that was the
no,
skunk.
it is
Yeah, Thumper.
Thumper.
No,
Oh,
Thumper is the
Thumper's the
rabbit.
rabbit.
Yeah,
Thumper's
Thumper's
the
the
rabbit.
rabbit. So
Oh,
Thumper's the
that's
rabbit,
even
and
better.
Flower is the skunk that was on
Flower
there.
is the skunk, and that's what
Yeah.
I have. Okay, so Thumper's the rabbit.
Thanks,
Okay,
Stephanie.
that's. Thank you. Thanks.
But
But I feel like that's even more fitting that it would be flower, and I literally am a florist. So
yeah,
how
because
perfect!
Thumper.
It all worked out.
See, now I'm lost on the Bambi because he got Twitter pated. Remember when they got all Twitter pated and they're falling
Yeah,
in
but was
love and
that?
Stuff?
But that was Thumper, right?
Yeah, that was
I don't know.
Thumper.
I feel like I don't want to delve too quickly, because we'll just have people correcting the whole time. It'll just be like fact checking. Like you're gonna have to
Okay,
have like hire fact
no more
checkers
fact
for me.
checking on the movie Bambi because, like,
On
it's funny because
please,
now we're
yes.
getting all of these comments. They keep going, and everybody. Hold on, let me.
It's an
So
online frenzy. Oh.
yeah, here's one. So cool, Thumper. Oh my God, is Thumper is the bunny? We've had people laughing. April, thanks, April. April says, "Oh, hey,
Oh, hey,
girl,
girl,
hey,"
hey. Oh,
and
shoot.
then, "Hey to you, Robyn." Got another one. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yes, no more Bambi.
No more
let's
Bambi.
let's get back to
No more
work here.
fact checking.
No more
Yeah.
fact checking. No more googling. Everybody's just sitting back here trying to
Just
pick on
relax.
us.
Everybody calm down.
We know we got it. Appreciate it.
It's under
So
control.
I think the last topic that I sort of want to talk about. So I love the fact that through so far what we've talked about is basically the beginning of your life, the journey, Bonzel, what brought you, what where you went, how you came back, what brought you back, and how you started the social flower. Then of course we talked about the growth with the loss of your home, and now like we could talk about the rebirth in a lot of ways. Oh my gosh, it keeps going.
Yeah.
Hold on, we have David on. I don't know if you can see it here. Let me
Hi,
hide that. David
David.
says, "Hi there, young lady." April, of course. I'm so glad to see her on. I'm glad you got that, Kim. Kris did. Yeah. So everybody's saying hi here. I love April. So I think what I want to talk about now is really the rebirth. So here it is. New home in Fallbrook.
Yeah.
Social
Fallbrookian for the first time
Fallbrookian
ever.
official.
92028.
Right.
Yeah.
And the social flower, which I love the fact. Can here move out of, not that I don't want to see you, but I want to see that sign one more time. Let me see it again. So I think this is so cool. The social flower design studio. That way everybody can see it. I just think that's so cool that it's taking all. You can come back. Where'd you go? You didn't leave me,
Okay.
did you? Okay.
Just right. I was hanging out with Flower over there.
But it's just, and it sounds like you're just in a rebirth period right now and really moving forward. I mean, would you like to talk about that a little bit? Kind
I
of like,
mean,
where are you going? You know what I mean? Because I'm in
sure.
the rebirth as well right now. I'm choosing like new paths constantly.
Yeah, I think right now, the first 3 years of the business, it was really about growth and making sure that this was a viable, business. It's really difficult to take those first steps and to take that risk. And so I knew starting so small that it was just like pounding the pavement and getting after it and building and building and building. And then the fires happened, and so it was just a year of the business was a little bit stagnant, but at the same time I was really grateful for that. We had just moved the shop into Bonzel, which is really funny because I lived in Fallbrook, or lived in Bonzel. Shop was in Fallbrook.
Right.
fires happened, shop moves to Bonsall, I moved to Fallbrook. So I just thought that was so funny. But as far as that goes, like right now, my focus is really taking what we do and how do we do it better.
Right.
And I think that's not unlike any kind of business owner or individual. You start the new year, you start your, what was good about what we already had, and how do we take that, and how do we grow, and how do we move forward. And that's kind of where I am right now. Manageable growth is something like in the business side. And we when we moved into the spa into Bonsall, we were growing in a way I wasn't prepared for. And
Right.
I just felt like it was great because I needed the distraction. And I was thankful for, for that growth. But now it's doing the right things, and making sure that we're growing in the right way. And I mean, the reality is I miss getting my hands dirty and designing.
Right.
We got to, in our kind of shop history, we've gotten to design for some really incredible, noteworthy people like Lauren Conrad from the Hills, which I was like a super fangirl of. And so we're kind of working on some cool things with some notable people in the Orange County area, and that's always really fun and really
Right.
exciting. Especially being, in a small town, in a smaller kind of area, and knowing that, like, I just feel fortunate because we have the support of our community, but we have this reputation that kind of exceeds outside of here. And
That's so cool.
it's so funny because there's literally nothing that I did, right? Like, people ask, like, how do you do that, and what did you do, what did you do different? And it's never been anything that I did. I really truly believe it's been the love and support of other people, and
Right.
my love and support of them back. And so I feel like if those two things are in harmony, then everything else should be pretty easy. And that's kind of what the focus is this year. How do we take that? How do we design better? How do we learn? And I don't know if people really realize, but our industry, the floral industry, is so governed by fashion, and what's going on, like New York Fashion Week. Like, we have to pay attention,
Right.
to stay relevant in what we do, because the styles and the trends change. Could you imagine if we still had weddings like they did in the 80s, with like the big puffy sleeves and the big hair and the crimson? So the styles and trends affect floristry as well.
Right.
And so that's kind of something I'm really excited about this year. And I'm doing some different things. I've always been a gift shop too. This year we're getting rid of all of the gifts, all of the knickknacks,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
And I really want to put a bigger emphasis on the earthiness and that liveliness of what flowers and plants are. And I want to build just a space. I don't know what my square footage is, but
Right.
just to have that be like this living, breathing organism.
That's cool.
And yeah, and so that's kind of what my focus is for 2019. So I'm really excited about it.
Right on. Right on. That's so cool. And I'm going to go ahead and start buttoning this up. I am
Sure.
so grateful that you took the time to let me interview you because,
This is so cool. Thank you.
yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the Fallbrook Village Talk was something that I've wanted to do for years, and we started it, and I just didn't know how to keep doing it without somebody else's help. And the people that were
Yeah.
helping me, they just didn't have time to help. And I've grown and changed so much over the last 3 years when we first did our first like recording, because back then it was just a recording. And then we put it out as an audio file, and people were actually like sitting around their house listening to it.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I was like, man, and here it is now with all of the stuff that I do on YouTube, because I have a huge YouTube channel and 50+ thousand people that follow me. So I've learned a lot, and I was like, man, I need to go back and start Fallbrook Village Talk again,
Yeah.
because for one, it's an opportunity for me to just meet people, and I like talking. I like hearing stories, and I genuinely I I genuinely just like want to know. And
Well, you're really
it's
good
almost
at it. I
yeah,
have to say this was really easy. Not that I was necessarily nervous, but
right.
it really was just easy to have a conversation with you, and I feel like it could have gone on a whole other hour without a
Oh,
blink of an eye.
easy. Yeah, and
Super
I'm sitting
easy.
there. That's why
Yeah, you
sometimes I
did a
have to
good job.
stop it because we're like almost at an hour. And
Wow.
and I think what it is, so I'm only going to tell you, I don't think anybody else is going to hear me, but I'm nosy. Like I'm a nosy person. And I don't view it as a negative thing. Like I genuinely like people and I genuinely want to know
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know. And I guess because like, I'm nosy, like I want to know. And I just really dig doing this. So when I first mentioned about doing Fallbrook Village Talk, I had a list. You were on my list, and of course, we're in January, so our business is just. I think this is the busiest month I've ever had in the business,
Cool.
and we've been doing it for a while. We're just
Yeah.
overrun with
Mm.
what we do. And I knew I wanted to start Fallbrook Village Talk again. So I asked other people to help me. So I have contributors now. So there's like 5 of us that are interviewing people at any given time. And but I was like, man, as soon as I saw your truck and somebody wrote on here, it looks like we're getting a ton of stuff. We'll actually probably hit that up real quick. So a ton of people are leaving comments. But I was like, man, why haven't I interviewed her yet? And I'm so glad that you jumped on. So I'm grateful to you for
Oh,
giving me your
thanks.
time and energy because to
Yeah,
me, you're
thank you.
like, and you know what? So here's the thing, because April's on here too. So April, be it known, I'm getting you on Fallbrook Village Talk. So you need to PM me on Facebook
Woo!
because imagine the stories we could hear from her. Um,
I've
she's
heard many of them,
right.
and you're in for a wild ride. So
Yeah, so I just think that'd
yeah.
be fun. So thank you so much for being on. Real quick before we jump off, I'm gonna hit these up, and then I want to have everybody know exactly how they could reach out to you if they want to reach out to you. Oh my
Sure.
gosh, there's so many comments popping in. Uh, oof, where do we start? I want to say, here we go. So we'll start here. Stephanie, I want to say, in the years I've known Robyn, she has also helped others grow as well.
Aw.
Thank you for being an amazing friend. Very cool. So here we go. What
Stephanie
is
just
this?
invited me to her Bunko group. If you want to know how to party in Fallbrook, go to Bunko.
Go to Bunko. Bunko is
Go to
so cool.
Bunko. Yeah,
Yeah, Kim
it's
used to
so
be
fun.
really big into that.
Yeah,
What was the
it's
other one?
so
Grub
fun.
Stakers or whatever. So, Kris, you should go interview some guys at the retirement center. That's actually a fantastic idea, April, and listen to their stories of Fallbrook 50 years ago. That's an
Mm.
awesome idea. April, why don't you help me do that? So, hit me up. Let me know. Um, oh, and of course, she said she's so nosy. Man, it just keeps going. Okay, I'm overwhelmed. There's so many. Uh, Oh, and of course, Season jumped on here. She says the van looks amazing.
Oh, thanks, girl. It's so good. I know it's so
So
good. Kris, I just want to say one thing about that too, though.
yeah,
In how like our community is such a collaborative effort. The van, I'm doing the wedding for that couple, and
right.
so we just completely bartered. No money changed hands,
Oh, that's cool.
and they trusted me in their wedding to design it and to like they gave me ideas, and that's what I love. But I did the same thing. I gave that same respect back, and I just kind of said like, "This is what I have a vague idea of."
Right.
And when he sent me, it was North County Wraps. His name's Christian, the owner. And when he sent that back, I just thought, "Oh my gosh, this is why you just like let control go and
Right.
let people do and businesses do what they do
Right.
because that was just amazing. I could have never dreamed of something so beautiful.
It's so
It's
cool.
amazing. It's
So
so
say it again. It was
rad.
North County Wraps because I need
Yeah,
a new
North
wrap as
County
well on
Wraps.
my one of my vehicles. North County Wraps. Christian is who we should reach out to.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do me a favor if you get a chance, like reply in the comment section. So if
Okay.
people want to find Christian, because I mean, I
I
am
will.
looking for somebody as well. And then
I
how can
will.
people find you and the social flower?
Yeah. So the best thing is obviously like online at socialflowerca.com, or I think it's the socialflowerca.com. We're on Instagram. Our handle is at socialflowerca. And so outside of, like carrier pigeon and maybe something like that. But No,
What about,
farm is
where's your
located.
location? So if people want to
Oh
drive through.
yeah, that's probably good. The
Yeah.
carrier pigeon also could tell them. But yeah, so we're located in Bonsall Village Center over by the post office. 5519 Mission Road is the address, and over in Bonsall.
That's awesome.
And so, you know, we have all of the main essentials here. We have Mexican food and tacos and ringers and
I love tacos.
flowers, and so it's great. Yeah.
And Ringers is pretty
It's a
awesome.
party. Yeah.
I used to go to Ringers a lot. I still probably go to Ringers like every other month just to swing in. It's just one of those cool little dirty bars that you want to go hang out and drink at.
Everybody's so nice.
Everybody's so
nice
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a cool place. So we've given a lot of plugs to a lot of people today.
I know. Well, it literally takes a village, right? Like,
yeah,
that's what's so great about our town, our community, is that, you know, like, what's the thing? It's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's kind of
Kevin
like
Bacon,
what our whole community is. Like, you just talk to a few people and you'll find people that know people and they've known them for years. They were their neighbor or their babysitter. And so it's just a great place.
We're right on. Well, thank you so much for being on Fallbrook Village Talk. I appreciate it. And I'll make sure. So usually when I do these videos, I'll actually send you the actual recording so you can share it any way that you want. All right.
Okay, cool.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching Fallbrook Village Talk. We appreciate it. You can find us on Facebook. Just look up Fallbrook Village Talk. Pretty soon, we're going to have our YouTube channel. So anybody that's watching right now or in the future, if you catch one of us, we're going to have a YouTube channel as well. And hopefully, eventually, I don't know, maybe build a website or something. And what I'd like to do is basically share everybody that's already, you know, done this, but ways of finding them. And please, 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 I'm always looking for new people to interview along with the team that's doing Fallbrook Village Talk. So if you have ideas, if you'd like to hear from somebody, hit us up. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thanks, Robyn. We'll see you later. All right. Bye.